Mike Elrington, welcome to Australian Musician.
Pleasure to be here, mate. Thanks for having me with you again.
We're in the studio here, Highway 9. We're here because you've created quite an album here, which is coming out very soon.
Yep.
What have you called it?
It's called Aftershock.
Any particular reason why you've called it that?
Just, I guess, sums up my whole mental and emotional frame of mind after my marriage breakdown, which happened a couple of years ago. And at that point in time, I had a couple of songs written for it, but most of it hadn't been written. So it was just the aftershock moment of making this, and it's just the best title I can really think of to have for it.
Yeah, the album was a 2.5 year journey,
Yep.
And you did go through some life struggles.
Yeah.
What was the motivation that kept you going throughout the journey?
Well, musically, I wanted to push myself to make something that was bigger, larger, more epic, and more intricate, and more varied than anything I'd ever done before. And I was very inspired by that motivation to make something really big and do it all with an acoustic guitar, no electric guitars.
Some of the production on some of the songs is huge.
Yeah.
Was the album always going to be like that?
On some of those songs, yeah, that was the plan that I had in mind, and also producer Sean O'Sullivan. We both like big sounding, epic, fully rich textured kind of pieces of music with lots of strings and that have orchestral sort of influences. So yeah, that was always a part of the plan. I mean, you don't have to do that with every song, obviously, but with the songs that we did give that treatment to, I just don't think they would have been the same without it.
The brief was almost there's no rules. So he was happy for me to use I've got an electronic background, I've got a rock and roll background, I've got all sort of production background, and I was able to use all of that, classical as well. So there was no holding me back, which is what I really enjoy.
Were all the songs written specifically for this album?
Yeah. So I had some songs written before the marriage breakdown, and then quite a few came after that were obviously influenced by my whole mental and emotional frame of mind going through all of that.
During the journey, you were travelling the world,
Yep.
Playing overseas.
Yep.
Did that have an impact on the album as well? Did you write any songs overseas?
Yeah, I wrote a few songs. I've been to Nashville a couple of times over the last 2 years, and every time I've been there, I've always written one or two songs. That's just the kind of town it feels like every second person there is a songwriter, so it's just what you do when you go to Nashville. So that was a huge influence. Some of those songs weren't on this album; they'll be on the next releases and future releases. But one of the songs that is on this, called "The Mirror," that was actually the first song I wrote when I went to Nashville in 2017.
What was the toughest part about making this album?
Well, personally, it was a struggle because of the frame of mind I was in. I was severely depressed and was having some pretty dark thoughts, and times where I just couldn't see much of a point to keep going in life in general anymore. And so it was hard to push through all that and come up here, because I had there were a lot of regular sessions. Sometimes we'd be doing one or two every week, and a lot of the sessions I'd literally leave it till the last day, the day of the session, to start writing something. I really thought, well, instead of being fully prepared like I often am in the past, I'll wait till the day. A lot of these songs were written on the day that we started recording them, and it was just very personally challenging to push through all of that that was going on, but it helped keep me going as well. It gave me something to focus on.
With such powerful vocal performances on a lot of these tracks, did you have a warm-up routine? Did you have to get into a zone?
No, much to Sean's frustration. because a lot of takes we just couldn't use. So no, to be honest with you, I didn't have a warm-up routine, and I should definitely do that from now on, because it would make everyone's job a lot easier, and it would be cheaper for me as well.
There's some very powerful vocal takes in there. Did you encourage Mike to do more or less?
Mike's like a Mack truck, and I was trying to get him to go around a go-kart track on some of the songs. And in a studio sense, you don't want to be, again, it's the live studio thing is two different things. You want to use the mic, use the compressors, use the mic pre's, and get them all to work. So it's all about bringing everything back. You don't need to be bang all the time. So I was more pulling on the reins with Mike most of the time, and then I'll just give him a little bit at the end to really give that dynamic range.
Let's talk about some of the tracks.
Yeah.
The song "Broken," it's almost like a field song from the south, a chant. Was it always going to be like that?
It started like that. I was listening because I love Delta blues and a lot of that old chanting stuff from the south of America, the 20s and 30s, where they'll just repeat a phrase. One thing that came to mind when I was writing that song was "Gonna find my baby when the sun goes down." Moby did that in that Play album that he released 10, 15 years ago, and that's an old blues song, and it's just that repetitive thing and that was an inspiration for that song, definitely.
The track "Everything to Everyone" is biblically epic, and I believe that's going to open the album.
That'll be the title track, yes.
At 1 minute and 20 odd seconds, was it ever going to be a longer piece?
No, I had that in mind as just a short thing to start with. We could have made it longer, but I think the length is just right for what it is. It's a bit of a half song. Some albums you hear might have like a 50-second or a 1 minute opener, and it's just a bit of it's not a full length kind of song, but it's just something to start the process, and that's all about the distorted and exhausted mind from just trying to be everything to everyone. And there's very little lyrics in that. All I'm saying is I can't be, I won't be ever again. And it's just basically accepting defeat that you can't be everything to everyone.
There are a lot of layers of sounds in that song or in that track. What's going on there musically?
So it starts with the guitar part, which was influenced a lot by Lindsey Buckingham's Big Love, that real fast picking A minor kind of shape guitar part. It's similar to that, and the tempo is similar to that as well. And that's with a what's called a duct delay setting. It's an I've got a H9 Eventide effects processor unit, and it's basically two delays that are set at different times, so that you create this like bouncing guitar effect. And it only works at a certain tempo, otherwise it just sounds like a big mess. But I found the right tempo for it, so I had that. And then Sean added some really nice synth stuff with that, which I never would have thought of myself, and that he just layered it, and just gave it that real dark synthy kind of vibe, and yeah, I'm very happy with that.
Dirty Death is an interesting track. It's got a huge acoustic guitar sound to it. Well, first of all, how did you achieve that?
Okay, so Dirty Death, that's the only cover on the album. That's a cover of a Jesse Unen song. Jesse Unen is a great artist who passed away about 10 years ago from leukemia, and over the last 3 or 4 years I've played at a lot of his tribute concerts, and that's always been the song that I've played. And it's just stuck with me ever since. And it's a straight, just acoustic. It's just the Cargill MJE 001 signature model guitar. It's in dadgad tuning, drop down. That's all that's going on there, and it's just a heavy driving song. So I'm just really beating the crap out of it, which feels pretty natural to me. So,
and it's got a lovely Spanish guitar part in it.
Yeah, I love a lot of that Spanish, Indian, Middle Eastern harmonic minor kind of stuff that I first had. Well, Zeppelin started doing it back in the day, and then Tea Party did it as well. And I don't know a hell of a lot about the theory of that kind of music, but I just love those sorts of sounds, those exotic kind of sounds. So I tried to incorporate bits of that in the guitar parts for that.
Don't Give Me a Dime is an interesting track for you,
Yeah.
which has a rap on it.
Two rappers on that one, yeah.
Two rappers.
Yeah.
Tell me about the guys who did that.
So first guy I had on that, a guy called Michael Honey, who his MC name is Maelstrom, and then there's a guy called Leroy Jackson. And those two, I put a post up in a Melbourne musicians Facebook group, asking. I'd never worked with a rapper before, so I'm pretty foreign to that whole hip hop world. I don't know many people in it, don't know many rappers or MCs, and I put a video up of the track, the chorus of it, and I had heaps of responses, and heaps of them were great, and it was hard to kind of pick the ones that I like because there were so many good ones. And I just picked those two guys, and I asked them to write their own parts. They had a chorus to work with and a sentiment for what the song was about lyrically, and away they went. Yeah.
The backing vocals, that's all you doubled?
In that one, yeah. We wanted to create that big chant kind of anthem thing, and that's a song that's all about the illusion that having more money will solve your money problems, when in reality it just makes them worse. That's my experience with it anyway, but we could talk about that another time.
Oh Josephine is a beautiful song. Whose idea was it to put strings on that?
So that was written about my grandmother on the night that she passed away at the age of 87. I've had that out as a single for the last couple of years, and we wanted to put that on the album. And we had a great cellist come in from the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra, Sarah Morse, and she did a great job playing on that. And we just wanted to have the single cello, I thought would really bring that out.
The track She Don't Want Nobody to Love,
Yep.
I believe is going to be a single.
We would like that to be a single. Yeah.
There's a lot going on. Who's the female vocalist?
That is June Harrison. June is a wonderfully talented female vocalist that I've been fortunate enough to be working with in many different capacities, live and studio, over the last 10 or 11 years. And she's great. There was no one else I thought of to, and we actually wrote her parts together. So I didn't just get her in to say, all right, sing this. We actually spent a good 3 days writing all her parts, and yeah, she nailed it. It was great.
There's a great organ solo in there as well. Who's playing the organ?
That is a guy called Liam Keeley, great Melbourne Hammond player, who came up and nailed the session, especially on that track. That was his kind of vibe, and he was able to play that pretty quickly. So happy with how that song came out. With that, I'll say you hear a lot of blues songs where it's the guy complaining about the woman that's left him, and you only hear one side of the story. Whereas with this one, I really wanted to have two, and have the girl come in and pretty much say why she left the guy. So sort of balance that out a little bit.
The track It Still Burns, another epic track, and one of my favourites.
Oh, thank you.
That I heard. Really rocks along. Tell me about putting that song together.
So that I wanted to go for that driving blues rock that's got a bit of the more traditional older sounds that I've done, with the guitar part that's actually influenced by dance music. Dun 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 dun, when you're hitting that offbeat sort of thing, which I've done in other songs in the past, but I really wanted to feature it on that song. And yeah, basically another whinge about the woman that's left you and you don't want her to. So, and you still feel it for her, and she doesn't feel it for you. So June Harrison again was featured on that, and she really brought the vocal arrangement to life, and loved what she did with that.
The track She's On My Mind has a great effect on the guitar.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
That's an effect that I've been playing a lot with in the last couple of years. It's a harmonizer effect on my Eventide H9 pedal to layer up 2 or 3 different harmonies. So it's it's an octave as well. So it creates 2 below and 3 above. So there's 4 or 5 different harmonies going on, and I just love the sound of that on the acoustic. It's just something different, and I haven't heard it been really done much before, and it was perfect for that track because it's a repetitive riff. And if you play that riff without an effect like that, it just wouldn't have the same effect. So
Let's talk about the guitars that you did use on the album.
Yep.
What were the main guitars?
One of them. I don't have a whole range. I said I used 7 guitars. No, I didn't. It's just this. This is the Cargill custom signature model guitar that was made by James Cargill for me last year. And we customised it. It's got the Cape Otway Blackwood top, back and side, so it's really strong wood. It really very durable, takes a beating because I do so many gigs with it and I play really hard. It's got the True Temperament frets for enhanced tuning, which looks like someone was stoned or on acid when they made it, but they actually weren't. It's all very carefully designed to compensate for harmonic anomalies along the neck, so the tuning is much better. It's got my signature in mother of pearl up the top of the headstock, which does absolutely nothing for the performance, but it looks cool. So yeah, this was all that we used, and I really wanted, one of the objectives with this record was to try and push the sound at the acoustic guitar and really get more out of it and throw lots of different effects on it, and no electrics at all. It was all acoustic.
How did you record the guitar parts?
We did a few different things. We had, for the bigger, heavier guitar parts, they were going through my pedal board with all the effects on it, with overdrives and octaves and the H9 harmonizer. So we had that, and there's two pickups on the guitar, so they were running two lines for that, and often for the more softer acoustic parts, we'd have a microphone in front of it, a condenser mic. So yeah, pretty standard way of. We weren't setting any new boundaries with how we recorded it. It's just the sounds going into it. It's what you're recording, not sort of how you're recording it. It was a pretty standard way how we recorded it.
Given how dynamic some of these songs are, is it going to be tricky playing these songs live?
Yes. It's going to be challenging to recreate the songs live. The reality with that is you're never going to get the same. It's never going to sound the same. And you don't want it to either. So I've got to think about how to almost recreate these songs live in a way so that they have a different kind of identity when they're played live, and still try and make them sound as big as possible, obviously, because there's a lot of people playing on the album. You know, whenever I do play them live, try and get those players in and create as big a sound as possible live. But some things, it's going to be very challenging.
Is there a track which is especially close to your heart than others?
Oh, probably Only in Your Eyes, which is the second ballad on there. There's 2 ballads on there. There Is a Light and Only in Your Eyes. Only in Your Eyes is it's a love ballad, but it's basically written about the falling in love with someone that you believe you're going to be with for the rest of your life from the first moment that you look into their eyes. So it's pretty definite and final, which I thought was me, but it wasn't. So I had that song before my marriage ended, and so I had to push through with that, and that was pretty special to me. I'd never written a song quite like that before, so I'm very happy with how it came out as well.
Do you have a favourite track off the album?
It's changed a few times depending on what sort of production I've done. Only in Your Eyes is one because that's a real orchestral, which I wrote the whole orchestral part on the keyboard, and then we got string players in. We added electronic bits in there. We added choir sounds in there. So that really evolved, really like that. There Is a Light, probably the one now for me that really, the whole thing just works. It started off, Mike just wanted an acoustic, very stripped back sound, and then I added some sort of Coldplay delayed guitar in there, and then I wrote a string section for it, then we got a string player in, then we put another vocalist in there, and it just built, and it just worked. So that's probably my other favourite.
Was it difficult to know when the album was done?
When I first heard it all finished at the mastering studio with Tony Mance, Jack the Bear in Melbourne the other week, I knew it was done. After I'd heard all the tracks and he'd put his mastering stuff on it, just that final layering, I said, yeah, I know it's done. It took a long time to get there, 2.5 years. There were over 50 sessions. It was over 200 hours in the studio with Sean here at Highway 9. So yeah, it was a long process. But when I heard it in its final form after being mastered, yep, it's done. Let's put this one to rest and get it out.
Just everything just worked in the end. You didn't know if it was going to, but it did. So yeah, I'm extremely proud of it. And I think it's got its own sound, which is very hard to do these days.
Well, Mike, having heard the album, you should be very proud of it. It's a massive production.
Oh, thanks, mate. Yeah, I'm really pleased with it. It's everything I wanted it to be and everything that I envisioned it to be when I first started writing it, and more. And I really have Sean O'Sullivan to thank for that. He was there with me for the whole ride, and he saw me at my worst, and when I would come to the studio really depressed and playing like crap and singing like crap and just really not bringing what I needed to, and he just persisted the whole way through. I love him for that, and he really put this whole thing together. I couldn't have done this on my own, or with, I don't think there's any other producer I really could have achieved this with. So yeah, really have a lot to thank to Sean for doing this. So I'm very happy with it.
Mike Elrington, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me, mate.